Next one. What was your hardest course you studied and why? Mine was multi-phase heat transfer, a master's level course. This course combined fluid mechanics, thermodynamics, and heat transfer all into one. To put the cherry on top, we had to study all that stuff for two-phase flows. After 17 years of education, it was the first time I was scared of failing an exam. LMAO. For me, fluids and thermo and heat transfer were definitely all hard, and they're probably all in my top 5. I'd say the hardest class I studied in college was probably partial differential equations. That was the one class that I thought I actually had a good chance of failing. And that was just like, I don't know, that was like my second semester of my sophomore year. I think it was the combination of the course material being very difficult and then my personal life. That was probably the hardest semester of college for me personally as well. So I think that definitely contributed to it. But yeah, definitely partial differential equations. I walked out of my final exam and I was like, I did my best. I don't know if I'm going to make it. But I'll tell you this, I passed the class. I ended up getting, I think, a much better grade in the class than I thought I was going to get. And then, obviously, fluid dynamics is the class I took the next semester where you apply, or was it either the next semester or the semester after that, where that partial differential equations is applied. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's crazy. I thought I struggled in partial differential equations, but whenever it came to actually applying it in my fluids class, I actually kind of got it. And maybe I'm having like the opposite of recency bias, where I'm thinking that I was better at fluids than I actually was. Fluids was probably the second hardest class that I had. So maybe, but I mean, I got through it. I knew enough PDE, as we called it, to get through fluids. But yeah, definitely partial differential equations was the hardest class I ever had. And some people that are engineers might be listening to this and like, what's partial differential equations? So the way that math was at Trinity is some universities you take a linear algebra class and a differential equations class separately. And at Trinity, we took a class called differential equations and linear algebra, which was the class we took after the calculuses. After calculus 1 through 3, we took differential equations and linear algebra. We called it DiffEq. And then there was another class called partial differential equations, which is where basically we went even further. And I know that some schools, they don't have that. They go a little bit further into PEs, a little bit in their differential equations course, but that's how Trinity did it. And I'm glad they did it that way, because it definitely set me up and gave me a good foundation. And by the time I got through fluids and I was in heat transfer, I mean, PDEs made sense. So it did definitely served its purpose. But man, that was a tough class. It was one of those classes that was really tough for a lot of people in my engineering program, because a lot of them were actually taking it at the same time. Excuse me. We're taking it at the same time as fluids, but I didn't take them at the same time. I took PDE first. But yeah, that's definitely the hardest course for me. I'd be curious, though, those of you that are on YouTube, what your hardest course was in your engineering program, if you're an engineer. And if not, whatever your major was and what the most difficult course you took was, definitely share that down in the comments below. And I will post about that as a poll question on the social media accounts as well. And if we get enough good answers, I'll read them out on the next podcast.
I'm not complaining. My thoughts get complicated. I cannot explain in lameness. Never losing focus because I ain't chasing payments. Still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries. Thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify. They put me on the station.